Record.
Okay, present in the room is Everett Mark Bills, road supervisor,
I
Guy
don't believe the
Tanza.
recording is on.
Recording is not.
Should
I
be.
don't see recording yet.
Recording in progress.
There we go.
All right, present is Everett Mark Bills, road supervisor, Guy Tanza, town clerk and videographer, Gwen Tanza, select woman, Stan Nova, selectman, Bruce Mello, selectman, and myself, Dot Maggio. David Jones said he will be joining us later on because he has a work commitment until about 8 o'clock. So if we see him in the waiting room, please someone remind me to let him in. Okay, very good. All right, so we'll start meeting from call to order, review the agenda changes, if any. And I had a couple I'd like to add to item 7, old business, letter E. Talk about the handicap sign placement. I'd like to add under my reports, item 6, I'd like to talk about a AARP placemaking workshop. And number 7, I'd like to talk about briefly DV fiber, someone who has stepped up from Brookline to consider going as an alternate to represent Brookline.
Clarification. You
Yes.
said item 8, which is reports, and you
See,
said
number
7.
8, town clerk, select board chair, and number 6 would be, see, my number 5 is budget meeting schedule. Number 6 would be the ARP placemaking workshop. Number 7, item 7 that I talked about would be DV fiber.
Okay, I must have an outdated one.
And then,
1, 2, 3,
under
4,
communicate,
5.
And then she's adding
6 and 7.
Oh, okay.
And then under communications, item number 9, I'm gonna add, where it says number 4 to be determined, a municipal mitigation grant and aid form. Okay? It won't take long. Any other changes? Hearing none, okay, we'll move on to review and approve the minutes from the regular meeting on October 6, 2021. First thing we have to do, we go through the pages, page 1, the first thing I notice is that we need to change it from September 6th to October 6th. Right at the top of the page. Does anybody have any items to change on page 1? Anybody have any changes to page 2?
Yes,
Stan has not changed on page 2.
yeah, under initial business discussion about town audit, second paragraph, the 4th line down. After the word intervals, a semicolon, that a professional accounting firm would insist on initial audit as opposed to a professional auditing.
Samara has joined you.
Yeah, I saw. All right, anything else on page 2? Page 3?
Let's see.
Just at the top of each page, you have to change the date to
Right.
October 6th on each page. Page 4. I have an item for page 4. Down under Historical Society to the Round Schoolhouse Committee, there was discussion. No negative feedback had been forthcoming. It says Mrs. Now had approved the idea. It should say Mrs. Now has been told of this name change and understood the reason.
Oh, okay.
Anything else on page 4? Page 5. Change the date at the top. I have a change on page 5 under October 4th meeting with Doug Johnstone, Agricultural Management Specialist. This Ms. Maggio has met with the complainant and helped with paperwork and plans on visiting with the farmer. I have not yet visited with him. Plans on visiting with the farmer. That's it for page 5, page 6. Page 7,
No, wait.
oh, I'm sorry. Page 6.
On a daycare building, last sentence, Mr. Mello discussed the pest control vendor suggested painting work on the roof flashing. That should be pure, that's just painting work on the roof, not flashing. And then work on the gutters and sealing the paint, the bulkhead, should be painting the bulkhead.
Okay, painting the bulkhead, okay. And this is not the daycare building, this is town hall.
That's correct,
Discussed,
so it's actually,
just discussed
it's probably actually wrong section,
of the
it should be under
town
Number 3,
hall
town hall.
building. Anything else on page 6? Page 7?
Sorry, could you clarify that last correction, please?
The notation of pest control, painting the roof, and painting the bulkhead is of the town hall building, not the daycare building.
So the last paragraph under daycare building should be put under as another paragraph or a second paragraph under the topic town hall.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay? Page 7? Page 8?
Pretty good, actually, good findings.
Page 9?
Oh,
Page
page 8. Projects number 4 at the top of the page, other than the date change. I don't know, and I've lost track of what the word corrugations, some corrugations is implied to mean in that sentence.
Bumpy roads,
Corrugated roads.
right?
What are corrugated?
Corrugated roads, like corrugated cardboard.
Corduroy
Oh,
roads, like
oh.
corduroy plants, like all the
Okay.
bridges.
Corrugations, I never heard of that, that's okay.
The road,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And page 9? I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from Wednesday, October 6, 2021, as amended. May I have a second?
Second,
Okay, all seconded by, I think Gwen got it first. Any other discussion? Besides changing the date to October. Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes, the draft minutes as amended for Wednesday, October 6, 2021, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed, motion passes, thank you. All right, scheduled members of the public. Frank Rucker told me he was planning on coming tonight to the select board Zoom. I'm told on approximately, and I sent him a copy of the schedule, something may have come up, but so we'll go on right to Samara. Hi, Samara, you're on.
Hi, Dot. Okay, I'm gonna apologize because honestly, I've been so overwhelmed lately that I don't always remember why I was on, but I assume it was to go over last year's financial statements and also offer some suggestions on possible ways to deal with our treasurer shortage, if you might call it that. Does that sound right to you, Dot?
Right, and we were also gonna put together what Frank had said. He had responded to my auditor question about doing an audit. And he suggested that in order to have an audit done, it would be best after 6 months to, after a new person is hired and they have gone through 6 months or more, because best practices would be for the new person working, so we can't have, until we hire someone and they are really involved in the process, he suggested not to do an audit. But
I would, I think, I mean, given the work, I don't think, with no disrespect to the select board, I generally find that boards sometimes who haven't dealt with outside auditors don't understand all the work that's involved. So I guess if we're going to open with that, what I would say is that, I've given some thought to how to manage the Treasury Department, maybe simplify it, maybe put it back together with the town clerk position, even though our internal auditors were pretty adamantly opposed to that. And so I put some notes down, and one of the things I thought that in lieu of whoever comes in as the new treasurer, actually I have a question. Does Mike Masters want out immediately, or is he willing to stay on through town meeting? Do you know? What did he say? I'm just curious.
I don't have the actual email with me, but I understood him to say that he would like to be replaced sooner rather than later, but would stay with his commitment to town meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so what, have you taken any steps? I mean,
I don't know where, no.
I think I would, okay, so I know Dot and I mean, we've talked individually, so let me just go through some of the things. One of the things I thought initially, and which would be the ideal situation, would be to actually, whoever comes in as treasurer, is to have someone who really understands accounting, a real bookkeeper. And to go about hiring a bookkeeper here is unfortunately not easy. Finding a qualified bookkeeper who's willing to do it at whatever rate the town can afford and isn't already fully booked is going to be a challenge. So while that bookkeeper could either report to the select board or to whoever steps in as treasurer, or you could do some sort of a written contract in addition to the oath. Just assistant treasurers and treasurers have to sign oaths. A bookkeeper, I would suggest, would have a contract and be an outside contractor. But I think, unfortunately, I've tried to do some research on who might be available, and most of the people who are really good are fully booked. So that will be a problem. And instead, I thought whoever would step in as either an interim treasurer until town meeting, if appointed, if you choose to reach out and see if anyone's interested, or if you ask Michael to send out an email saying, I'd like to be replaced sooner rather than later. And if anyone's willing to step up, please let us know. Please respond to, and then decide who he or she should respond to. And then you can determine whether or not you want to appoint someone for an interim treasurer until town meeting, when obviously it would go up for election again. But what I was thinking is whoever comes in, you might want to take some of that audit reserve that we have, which is about $4,000, and at least hire an outside accountant. See if there's someone locally who's an either a firm or an independent accountant who would come in and help with the year-end reports, because that would be not an audit, but it would be like accounting assistance. I know a lot of towns have used one of the ex-NEMRIC employees to help with that. and that might be a possibility. I'm still researching, just so you know. I've been calling friends who are on select boards, because I have several on other town select boards, and everybody is struggling with this, so we're not alone. But even, and particularly if we do recombine the town clerk and treasurer job, which is common in this state, then the next issue, the issues would be how to create enough internal controls so townspeople and you guys are confident that there's oversight and some assistance to whoever takes on the job. Because it's not an impossible situation. You just have to think about how to structure it. And I'll just pass along my notes. After this meeting, I'll scan and send them to all of you. I know I had talked to Bruce briefly, and one of the things, and I know the auditors consider this, is there's an internal controls checklist that VLCT puts out that helps define how to create enough separation of tasks so that not only is the town protected, but the treasurer is protected, you know, from accusations and whatever may come their way. So the other thing I think that we should consider doing is simplifying our year-end reports. Right now, they've always been dumped into Excel and then put into different formats. And I think we can significantly reduce the work by using simplified versions of the reports that NEMRIC produces. And then the only thing that would be probably need to be in a similar format would be the budget for approval. And if you haven't checked, I'm sorry, I sent out draft year-end reports for June 30th, 2021, but I did it kind of late because we had sort of, Judy and I had an overlap need to use the computer. So I got a late start. So if you haven't had a chance to look at them, please print them out and look at them and email any questions you've got. You can either use my personal email or the town email, and someone will forward it to me. I've talked about, I think we could do, you know, who in their household pays their bills immediately as soon as they come in. I pay them by the time they're due, but I don't drop everything and pull out my checkbook as soon as it comes in the mail. Generally, I schedule my bills. I try to write almost all my checks once a month. So I would suggest maybe we simplify and only do warrants on a monthly basis. And that will cut down on some paperwork and hours required for the treasury job.
You mean just not payroll warrants, you mean just accounts payable warrants?
I'm just talking accounts payable warrants, but we could also consider a less frequent payroll schedule. So a biweekly payroll is usually used for full-time people who need who are like on a, you know, they must have their cash immediately because they're living paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. I mean, they're done for the convenience of an employee. We have no full-time employees. We have certain individuals who don't hand in their timesheets biweekly. And then we have some people who only get paid a stipend annually. So in my opinion, I think, you know, you could easily simplify so a bi-weekly payroll period is 26 pay periods. A bi-monthly payroll period would reduce it down to 2 times a month, which would be 24 pay periods. And if you really wanted to go like, well, what colleges do is they pay monthly. And monthly would be 1 paycheck per month. And of course, it requires people to, for who are getting more regular paychecks, which is currently maybe some assistant treasurers and the town clerk and assistant treasurer. You know, we could go there. I don't know if there's any cost savings with the payroll company. It's on my to-do list to call and find out. But it would also cut down on the hours spent doing payroll, which is time consuming. And also, one advantage of a bi-monthly payroll over a bi-weekly is that there's always a clean cutoff at year end, because it always ends at the end of a month. It's usually bi-monthly pay periods usually go on the 15th and then the last day of whatever month it is. So that's another thing to consider. And then another thing that I've kicked around in my head, and this is of course I came from Cook County, and taxes are paid twice a year. And many towns in Vermont only have one tax collection a year. And we have 4, and that creates a lot more work. So if we could reduce to at least twice a year, that would cut down the hours required in the treasurer position. And now, given that we know some people are cash strapped, I did find out, I have a friend on the select board in Wardsboro, and they're using a new, I don't know how new it is, but it's a system called Municipal that offers electronic payment options. You can send an e-check to pay your taxes, and there's either a $1 or $2 fee per payment. I can't remember if it's a $1 fee or a $2 fee, or if you choose to pay by credit card, which some townspeople have asked for, there's only a 2% interest charge on credit card payments. And that's another thing on my punch list, to call and get the details on their services. So, and then the last thing that I would say for cost saving as you head into budget is when you look at the reports that I sent out earlier today, take a close look at all the underused expense items on the only in funds 1 and 2. In fund 2, they're not so good, but in fund 1, I'll note we had budgeted $3,000 for legal expenses. We didn't use any of it. So that could be reallocated somewhere else. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but I have the reports in front of me. And yeah, you'll look, as you look at the report, you'll see the budget column, then the actual, and then how much was used. And anything that says actual percent of budget, if it has 0%, it means we didn't use any of that line item. So going forward in the coming year, you should consider whether that line item needs to be retained, whether it should be reduced, or whether it could be redirected to an area that needs more funding. So.
Something else.
But that's only period 3. We still have 9 months to go. That's only period 3. We still have 9 months to go.
No, this is
No,
from
which
the
one?
end of last year. We don't have any months to go last.
Okay.
I'm
You
looking
have
at
an end of
last year.
You have
I'm
an end
not-
of year report?
I'm not looking at this year's. I'm looking at last year's budget.
We don't have that report then.
No, I sent it out late. It went out in email at about 5:45. And I left some hard copies on the, so apologies again for that. The September reports are obviously, we're only in period, that's only up to period 3. So that tells you what's left for the current year. But we didn't look at this when we allocated for this, we're always like a year behind. The data we're using to determine the FY23 budget will be based on FY21, results, and possibly, looking at how the current year is doing, if you can project the current year budget. You following me? You with me, kind of, sort of? Okay.
Sort of.
So, yeah, so that's a little bit problematic. When you do look at them, I put on funds 1 and 2, when you do look at those reports for last year, which are, they're coming to you in PDF form, marked preliminary financial reports. I forget the exact title, but they're PDFs that are all labeled preliminary and unaudited. I've made almost all the adjustments. There's some probable, just like assistant treasurer and treasurer amounts are probably not right, but the bottom line is okay. And the bottom line shows a small surplus in the current year in Fund 1 and a large current year deficit in Fund 2, but overall, neither fund is in a deficit position. So, the deficit in Fund 2 was of course caused by spending down the paving surplus. So there was a lot of paving that was done over budget last year. So, but you guys, I mean, that was a known thing. That was a decision to, spend some of the surplus funds in highway fund. But since I got these out late, again, I would just say, just send me any questions that you can think of that come up when you have a chance to read through them more leisurely.
Okay.
And
Bruce has a question.
Samara?
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to absorb pretty much everything of what you're saying. But my overview of the situation is that we need a bookkeeper, a CPA, an accountant, or somebody to take control of the situation. And the only way I see that happening is if we pay somebody. And I'm not even sure that that's gonna happen, because everything is so tough right now. People are looking for people to work, like you said, the people that you knew, Samara, are out straight, you can't get anybody. So I think that that's I appreciate everything that you were saying to analyze, making things simpler and more cost effective and easier going forward and more understand. And boy, I'm into simplicity. But I think the basic problem we have is we're not getting resolved, which is very difficult. It's been going on for the last couple of years since you wanted to leave after 8 years. And that we get somebody in the position and they flip out. But I don't see that.
That's an ongoing problem, and that's why I kind of wonder if you aren't going to end up needing to figure out how to recombine the town clerk and treasurer position into one position, which would offer a person close to 30 hours of work a week easily. And then you could treat it as more like a full-time position and create something more attractive to a younger person who needs to support a family and wants more hours than the treasury position right now is about, combined between assistant and treasurer, is somewhere between, depends. I would say 15 hours a week is probably a pretty good guess. But 15. I mean, combining the
There's the
assistant.
problem. There's the problem right there. You're not gonna get anybody. Who are you gonna get a talented person that, unless they're retired or in their 80s like Judy, not to put her down because I'll be there soon. Hopefully
She
not too
did,
soon.
she did your AP warrant, so don't knock her.
Oh, I'm not knocking her at all. No, I'm not knocking anything like that. But I guess what I'm driving at.
No, it's a problem. That's
Yeah,
why.
we need to
But
pay. How do we find somebody that's not, how do we find somebody now that doesn't already have a full-time job or a CPA? I'll call my CPA that does my taxes, of course, she's getting charged for retirement. It's
the
not
thing
how it
is-
works.
well, the other issue you have too is not every bookkeeper, it has to be, I've talked this over actually with a woman at Nemrick, Darlene, who used to be a financial manager for another town. And she said other towns are going this route of looking for a regular bookkeeper. Now, I know other towns do sometimes hire someone to do the bookkeeping. I mean, there's all different ways, there's a million different ways to do it, but given that we're a small town, the issue of creating a position that has enough hours to attract someone to the position, I think you almost have to recombine the town clerk and treasurer position. I'm becoming more convinced of that. However, with that said, then you're going to want to look into how to create internal controls so that everybody, including the town clerk and the treasurer, are covered, so that there's no chance that things can go upside down because of, whatever. And frankly, with our current staff, I wouldn't worry. But with whoever comes in, you want to create internal controls, and that I will look for. I tried finding that internal controls checklist the LCT puts out, which is probably a little bit too thorough, but every audit firm, before they agree to do an audit, immediately assesses internal controls, because it determines how much they're going to have to test. And testing, the more work they have to do, the more it costs. So that is the first. I know, I was an auditor. The first thing they do is they go in and they interview all the management to see what internal controls are in place and are they being followed. And then they determine what financial statements they need to look at. One of the more immediate things you're going to have to, before I call it a day at the end of this month, I am going to put together a list of some open things that you're going to have to find somebody to pick up, the bank reconciliations and things. And it should be the auditors. It should be our town auditors. Actually, Roger Poitras told me that when he was an auditor, they always did the bank recs, and that would be hunky-dory. But
That's
if
the way
we
it's supposed to be.
Yes.
yeah, and so and Heidi Nystrom was doing them for a time, but she's working in Swansea now or someplace, and and she certainly had the experience and could do them. And then Marie stepped in for a while, but we all have things going on in our lives where it's just not possible right now for me to keep that up. I might do one more month. I might, reconcile October at least, but I mean, the good news is when I do the bank recs, there are very few errors, so that's nice. But, anyway.
So Samara, I guess our concern again is, our ability to attract and sustain a staff.
Right. That's going to be, and that's got to be, you guys have to, I mean, that's the select board's, you have to, kind of hash it out and figure out, I mean, you might have to try. I mean, I would start by sending out an email and see if anyone's willing to step in now and see if that gets any bites. And if not, then I would move, go from there, plan how to, how you might make it work. So, I mean, and I'll send you my notes, which may or may not help you, but they're here. I typed them up. I just didn't send them yet. And
Thank you, Samara.
Do you think the Mike or Judy will be able to help us when we're doing our budget? Because we would get some nice templates where we would have previous years and all that.
I would think so. I mean, most of them are available. All they have to do is give you last year's templates.
Exactly. We had it already.
And then you can update them. I mean, and Dave Jones did really, last year, I didn't sit in on any of the meetings. It was done. You basically, I mean, they're pretty easy to produce, and I'll make sure they have the instructions how to do it, but.
All right, we're gonna plan on some dates to start
Ask
doing.
Dave probably has last year's, because he kept them and just gave us the numbers and we input them into the final form.
Okay.
So,
Mhm.
and then all you'll need is, you'll have to, I would say, take a look at the reports I sent you, particularly what I did on the smaller funds were, I left out the account numbers and just printed the reports, not on the balance sheet, but on the ones that show their actual revenue and expenses. I just left out the numbers, and you can see their reports are so short. I don't see why we couldn't just compile these rather than redoing everything in Excel personally. There's nothing that says you have to put together a consolidated financial statement in Vermont. You can do your financial statements however you want, as long as they're accurate, So I don't know how the original format got started. Frank Rucker, when it's somebody who has more history in the town may know. I don't. But I think depending on if Dave's still doing the town report book, I think we could just basically use the reports as they come out of NEMRIC once once the auditors are done checking all the numbers and make sure they're okay. Or if worse comes to shove, you can export it into Excel and make it prettier that way. But without having to retype everything and do all that stuff, which is time consuming. So those are my thoughts
Okay.
All right,
for
so
what
Thank
it
you.
works.
anybody?
Okay.
Yeah,
Aye.
Guy?
I just wanted to add something. Thanks, Samara, for your report. I'm entertaining the thought of running for treasurer during the March meeting. As we've talked before, Samara, we've spent 10 years getting out of town as tight as it can be, and it is really tight. The last 2 years have been a little disappointing because we've had 4 different treasurers. I do a lot of the treasury work. I have an understanding of the treasury work. If we don't get a qualified person that comes up, that steps up, I'm gonna throw my hat in as a treasurer, town clerk. In 181 towns in the state of Vermont, the town clerk and treasurer are the same person. Yes, there's an audit snafu, there's some things there, but the laws are pretty straight in Vermont. The town clerk and the treasurer can be the same person. So I'm just gonna leave you that. I don't want the town to think that they're gonna be high and dry. And my opinion is that I would stay for maybe a year, 2 years, whatever. In that time, we could have a real good look at some qualified people. Hopefully by then, COVID will have lowered its impact, and maybe we can find some other people. It's difficult to get a person to work for 10 hours a week. It's extremely difficult.
Right.
And we're not a big town, but we still must follow the same rules and laws of every town in the state of Vermont.
I think better. I like what you said. But I think considering everything that's been happening in the last 2 years in the Treasury Department, that we should let Mike Masters go his way and appoint you as a treasurer until then. You don't wanna do that?
It's pretty close to year's end. And you're asking someone to step in to a can of worms, which is a
Okay.
real difficult time.
So you're saying the time is up? Okay.
Yes, so I would like to see Mike, he's expressed his idea that he could stay until March, and if he could, that would be great. If for some reason something goes upside down, yes, we'd have to rethink that. But the end of the year is a real busy time, and I think it's important to have some stability at
Okay.
this point, with Mike. And Samara has said, even though she may be in the background, she would always be a phone call away to help us along, if we, have a hill that we can't climb. So, that's what I'm thinking.
I am going to read this brief statement here from the auditor, Frank Rucker. He said, under Samara's leadership and in working with her highly competent town officials, our town financial records have been and currently are compliant with generally accepted accounting principles and clear fiscal accountability. And it goes on to say that it is essential that the select board invest in the town's capacity to manage its fiscal responsibility. Federal legislation will likely continue to create grant opportunities for the town to leverage, which makes the timing of this action essential. So, yes, we appreciate your input and we'll have to talk about this, get this on the agenda about cost saving things. I think right now, though, my focus is the budget. As we move on,
Yeah.
we'll make updates for.
Actually, before I adjourn myself, I did want to point out in your September financial statements, you're going to notice that there's a Fund D now. And in that fund is $79,000 in ARPA money.
Yes.
So take note of that and now you
Yes.
figure out how to use that. So,
I saw that.
okay, all right, I'm going to say goodnight and
Thank
thanks
you,
to all of you.
thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you very much.
Have a good night.
Good night.
good night.
I have a comment.
Yes,
I would ask that we reflect upon a process where if we are looking for an individual and or an accounting firm, that we do it at the same time. Because to do one and then find it's not there, it's a delay. And given the tight times, it would be nice to do both at the same time. Those that don't, we think kind of work out, we can just simply let go. And those that of our interest, we can then weigh the options at that time as we go along. Just as opposed to going one route, spending a month, 2 months, and then finding that you gotta go to process number 2, and then look at people to be hired when it's even more critical because there's others competing with us at that time, I suspect, more so than there would otherwise be. Just a thought.
yes, and I was thinking that maybe we need to, isn't there a job placement place in Brattleboro near Staples that runs job fairs that they are headhunters for positions that,
I don't know. There might be, I think I heard a rumor to that effect, that I'm not having
But
exposure to it or direct statement.
yeah, there's like a company you can go for, what's it
Yeah.
called,
No,
part-time.
it was headhunters, that's the
Yeah.
But you can't think of a name.
language,
Like
but
Indeed.
the bottom line, it would be great if we could find another Helen for the the treasurer, that would be great.
Right.
And we got lucky with Helen and thank God because she's doing a great job. I don't say that that's impossible, but I'm just more concerned about the stability of having each person come in because you
Yeah.
just don't step into the treasury department and start doing.
Right.
There's some,
So we're looking at more of a bookkeeper, accountant than a treasurer.
well, I don't, again,
What are
when
we
we.
looking for? That's
Well,
what
that-
When the treasurer runs for the position of treasurer, I don't think any treasurer wants to be micromanaged because the treasurer is an elected official. If he chooses to have a bookkeeper, which would be to his betterment, but he would be able to hire and fire him because if he doesn't meet his particular way of doing things, not the select board, or yes, I'm sorry. If he doesn't meet or she doesn't meet the particular qualifications that the treasurer, who is the absolute responsible person, then he has the ability to move around and do. I don't wanna see you cut off a left hand because I just don't believe in that. And that would be the only way, and that's why I say as an elected official can only be replaced 99% of the time by the people who voted him in. So there's no conflict with select board, there's no nothing. You know, in a small town like this, we all get along real well, but there are some places where that isn't the case. We all have seen it and we're grateful that this town is the way it is, and I'd like it to stay that way.
If I could just finish up and then I'll step back completely. I offer that thought, not excluding the option of you stepping in and or
Yeah,
running for
no,
election. I just
but I just wanted
it's
to express
the
my.
entire picture.
Yeah.
If for some reason we find ourselves going down the route of not utilizing your capabilities and experiences,
Mm-hmm.
combining that, if we go that other route, that we do it in a process that gives us the greater, broadest result possible, which gives us the greater number of choices to package things and look at it from all the perspectives at one time and as soon as possible, as opposed to postponing parts of it.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm dealing with an area that I'm super familiar with, this isn't music to me, okay? But what I'm thinking is, we got 4 months until we get to town meeting,
Right,
okay?
that's what I'm
So if I'm wrong and think, sit back and think about, Bruce, what is the best way to do this? And I think sliding into the town meeting is probably, the way I see it, is the best approach. Like, given everything that you've all said, and that we're sort, hey, we find a bookkeeper like Helen, bring her in, let's try to train her.
Yeah, well, I
Okay,
mean,
But
it's,
to get that,
it's possible, but it's improper.
right, around the holidays and whatever, and we have deadlines, which you all know that. So I'm thinking that if we slide our way into town meeting, you'll get the job without a doubt, I'd be surprised. Okay, I know you can contest, the.
I mean, I have the qualifications, I'm an IRS employee for 15 years, I
Okay.
take the test, I pretty much know what goes on.
More importantly,
numbers.
the trust is there, okay? And to me, that's the most important part, other than the competence. But once you get assuming,
Right.
once you get into that position in March, you'll be in a position, you're here all the time to man your treasury staff. Did I
That's,
say that
well, that's the
correctly?
reason why I suggested, because we have one phone, one mailbox, one everything, it all comes through the town clerk.
Right,
And that's the small town business, that's
but
just
you
the way
can
it is.
also pick, you say over the next couple of years, you can transition.
Oh, yes,
Which would give you, let's put it this way, who in this building has the better technique to do that? Guy.
well, yeah, I've been here for 11 years, but,
Right.
but going
So-
forward, like I say, the most important thing is the stability and to get through
Yes.
this little crisis that we're going through.
Yes.
We went through it with listers, we landed on our feet, and hopefully we'll land on our feet with the treasurer, and I think we can.
Right.
It's just a matter, but I don't wanna start shadow boxing, not knowing who to hit
Right.
first, because everybody's got 27 different ideas and change this and change that,
Still
no.
looking for
Let's
listers.
stay the course, get through this period,
Right.
and then start,
In other words, don't jump off the ravine when it's,
All right, I'm gonna-
when it's only a puddle.
that's just my opinion.
I'm gonna move us along, what I will do is I will talk with Mike Masters about our conversation tonight, to
That's
see
good,
if he is comfortable again to staying with us and working and until the end of his term.
That would be the ideal thing.
That ideally, that would work best for the town, we can't
And that
do
will
anything until I
solidify
talk to him about that.
So
Yeah,
after,
exactly.
after October 30th, it's just Judy and him.
And
So
Guy's
we're,
assistant, yeah.
you gotta be careful here, but you do that, that's great.
Well, and again, if we don't have any candidates come January, then I will definitely throw my hat in and say, okay, I'm hoping that maybe October, November, December, we might get lucky. But if we don't, I will do it, but I would have to change some of my other things. Because some things are not compatible, some things it's just too much for one person. But again, it's the old story, we don't have people stepping up.
Right, but you're in March, you're in a position to be able to get people to fill the responsibilities that you need to help with in that position.
Oh, yeah, that's,
So anyway, we.
All right, so we're gonna move on, thank you very much for your very, very good discussion.
It was a great one.
Thank you for your input. and
well, you're
willingness to-
welcome.
That's great.
Like I say, we're a small town and we get along real well, and I'd like it to stay that way.
All right, we're gonna move on to item number 5, unscheduled members of the public, there is no one here, so we'll now move on to item 6, new business, road salt for winter. Now. Guy just gave
Next
me
hassle.
quotation for bulk ice control rock salt that came in this afternoon around 4:30. I know you and I spoke this morning about it. And it says, this is from American Rock Salt, delivered price based upon full.
77 cents.
Is that good?
No, $77 a ton. What did we
Is there
pay
a price
last year?
on here?
Do you
Oh,
know?
$77
A ton.
per ton delivered.
That sounds like a good price,
I can't remember, did we do 73 or 79? It was in the 70s, I thought.
yeah.
So it's pretty
Doesn't sound
much-
like it's off too much,
Yep.
and
And you were satisfied with their service?
oh, very, yes, they were so prompt, you could call that morning, it would be here by the end of the day.
So I don't know if there's a bidding process that we have to adhere to.
We
I
didn't
but-
have to
I
last time.
contacted our other salt vendors who were good over the years that we have.
Yeah, Carville
And I called last Thursday after the next day after the meeting. And I left my information, wanted salt price and availability. And they were to contact or send an email, nothing. So I retried a week later, got the same information. So if they sent something today, I think.
You better jump on it.
Yeah. I think in
Right,
special circumstances, you have to.
yeah, because it's already the end of October.
right, and when I asked about doing this by bid, I was told that we didn't need to go by bid, and I'm not sure how that works. David said we did not have to go by bid, we went with the companies that came down. So
I asked
how the
two
select board feels
companies.
about this.
Well, I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just was gonna say, I contacted two companies and only one responded so far.
So there you
My
We're
are.
getting late in the season, I don't know if we should wait another.
My understanding is we've kind of met the criteria of seeking bids. You don't have to just advertise in the paper and wait for somebody to respond. You can contact the vendors that you know
Correct.
provide that.
Correct.
And if there's only one that says he's willing to do it, the decision is already basically, do we want to accept that or not? Which means we should proceed in that.
Which
kind
is
of
what
vote.
we can do
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, other, like, our sand bid only came in one bidder.
Yeah, and we went along with that.
Let's move it
So that
forward.
can be bid on, that can be voted on tonight.
Yeah, let's move it.
All right, so I would like to make a motion to accept the bid from American Rock Salt for the bulk ice control rock salt at a cost of $77 per ton delivered to the town of Newfane. May I have a second?
Brookline or no?
Town of Brookline, Newfane's gonna pay for it. I'd like to make a motion
Seconded.
to accept the bid for $77 for the town of Brookline. Stan Nogan seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor in signing the contract for rock salt from American Rock Salt for $77 a ton, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, motion passed. Okay, rock salt.
Does that have to be signed by, I don't know?
Yes, it will be signed by me, title,
All right, and I think, do I email it back to them?
I think so,
Okay,
yes.
I can't remember the
It
protocol.
says, email your response and then you can return it so they can place the order, so I'll have that right here.
Good, so we
Alright.
got salt.
We got salt, next one, vendor packet. Samara's not here, I didn't get those questions on it. Customize according to project discussion. So, last week on the 14th, or actually before that, I had sat down with Judy and she was concerned about some of the vendors and spending a lot of time. She sent me an email, spending a lot of time going back and trying to figure out who owes what. And so I said, well, I can help you out. I can send the vendor packet to the Continental Screening Glass and Larson Electric, and Kerry Bourne had asked for one a while ago. And so I did that, and then I heard that the round schoolhouse sign was ready, and I just threw together another packet for that because any purchase over, anybody who earns $600 or more has to do a W-9 and so on and so forth, and then I talked to Stan, or communicated with Stan, and I also communicated with Samara, and she said, well, maybe he doesn't need the whole packet because he didn't do any work on the building, he did it at his home, so maybe we don't need. So I was like, I'm confused, the vendor packets are confusing to people, so I don't know how to handle it.
I think we're getting a little too much in the weeds.
Well, you know
Go
what?
ahead, Stan.
But I did talk to David, I said, David, what did I emailed David, and he said, we never really didn't have that many outside
That's right.
vendors before, so now we are. Because we're improving things, we're maintaining and improving.
Grants and so forth.
Yeah, and there's grant, so that's why.
in so many ways of looking at that, because in some ways, in the case of the sign on the building, it's not a corporation. It's, we had asked for a sign, which is a product. If we're gonna buy heavy equipment later on this year, we're not gonna ask them to break down the labor to create the product and then the cost of the materials and versus labor. It's an item, it's a product, and we're gonna pay one check. And I assume the invoice is gonna be for delivery of a, whatever. And so in some sense that, the W-9 probably, because we're gonna have to report income or whatever. So in this case, we have an individual, it's not a corporation of any sort. He did all the work in his own home, on his own property, short of taking it down and putting it back up. So I had concerns about after the fact, which is an issue in and of itself, but I'm not upset about that to the point where I'm angry or hateful or anything. It's totally inappropriate to be that way. But what I am doing or was doing is saying, do I really need to provide all these things? And so Samara gave a pretty good answer that I felt was reasonable and accurate. She suggested that if there were issues to contact VLCT. I did pose a question to VLCT, and what I noted is that as a provider of information to a lot of towns, it appears to me that they err on the side of safety. And they give all these requirements. They said that we do probably want to require a liability certificate, liability insurance certificate, or get that from the vendor who provided the sign, send the W-9. And the comment was, without having it here to read, if I can accurately recall the verbiage, it would not be a bad idea to get the non-employee form filled out as well. So I can clearly see the dilemma that Judy is worth dealing with, and this is what they're kind of saying. But on the other hand, there's the possibility of not doing it. So to try to be what I should be is completely compliant in terms of being understanding of the people around me and so forth. I went ahead and let the vendor for the sign know that there are going to be things required of him. I might not be sure of the entire list and would ask that he contact me, let me know where to send it. If he had any questions, he get back to us. So, I can understand the need for some things. I do feel that we, at some point, and given all the other things we had going on, irons in the fire, we probably, at a more calm time, if there's ever such a thing for a select board, go over what may or may not be needed and kind of create a guide, a list, a checklist of sorts for this kind of vendor, that kind of vendor, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's not like.
I don't know if we can actually even do that, because each
Yeah.
one becomes a little bit more individual. But I would think in this case, just for the sign, I would think, I can't imagine you would carry liability insurance if he's not a company. So I could say, the W-9 and non-employee work agreement.
Don, when you went over to Dave Zaleska's house, giving the insurance form, that was a lot for him to prove that he had liability insurance, is that accurate?
Correct.
And that's all he had to produce,
Although
right?
Samara we did have to pay taxes, and she did send him a W-9, and they sent that out. I didn't, see, this is not necessarily a select
This is a
chair's
treasury
job.
Right.
It's the treasurer's job to do that.
The W-9 is so you have a place to send appropriate 1099-S
At the end.
Yes.
to the miscellaneous so that you have a valid address.
Oh,
But
okay.
I just offered to help Judy out in that, but it really isn't it's not something I should be handling. So in the case of Michael, I'll pull together I'm gonna do.
I got the packet, I mean, the material still, I didn't dispose
The
of it.
W-9 and, the cover sheet you don't want to use because I said on
Right.
it.
Insurance.
Before the work started, but that's because I knew that Larson hadn't started the work and Continental Screen hadn't started work either, so when I sent it to them, but I think the non-employee work contract, and the W-9 would be sufficient in this case. If it's $599 or less, then we don't have to do either. But if it's gonna be more, then we have to do both, I would think. If that's all right with everybody.
And I do want to thank you for your interacting on that. I mean, I felt comfortable knowing there was another set of eyes and that we were trying to work this out, and I really appreciate it.
No, Stan's always a pleasure to work with you.
So
I
you,
do have to make a point though. go ahead.
So you're saying the insurance, the,
Liability for the.
yeah, you gotta have that, and the 1099 is definite.
Yeah, not the insurance liability, because he's not a company, he's an artist.
Well, God forbid, if he was hanging up that sign on that building and he got hurt, who would be the
Well,
liability?
that's the thing, is after the fact, it's almost void, null and void. However, I wanna point out to Bruce, Momini's painting company, they have returned the contract and non-employee, but still has not returned a W-9 or the certificate of insurance from there. So they're never gonna get work for us again unless this is the case.
Right, normally that's a prerequisite before you hire them. You say you need a 1099, so forth, and if they don't give them to them, then you don't award the bid.
Or you don't pay them.
Yeah, well, no, you just don't, you give them an
The
opportunity
guy
to.
actually has a file
We
in
should worry
there,
about
this.
yeah.
next time.
Some companies just automatically send him an
That's right.
insurance.
Why make a hassle?
Well, you still have to show the town as the lost payee.
Right.
You know how that,
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, he'll fill it out when he's ready, if he gets the bid, unless, the other thing left is the steeple. If he, oh, excuse me, on the inside of the church, if he gets that work, he'll have to fill it out. But
Well,
why
I'm
make
just
him do it
saying,
now?
it's just the fact that I did not send it out because I didn't realize it was something in my parameters and it didn't get done. Nothing got sent out after the fact, so this is just a concern
Well,
with
this has all
that.
come as of late, and this has been
But
started for the
because-
treasury department,
Things change.
and wait a minute, and everything has been changing. In as much as we're sending all this stuff out after people's work been done. My suggestion is, like with Mo is a good example. If he bids on the steeple, if we get that far, which would be nice, out of the inside of the building, then at that point say, no, we're gonna have to.
The question is, how does the treasurer know that needs to be sent out?
Okay,
It's in the
then
minutes, but-
then we have, as a select board, have to understand when we put something out for bid and we have an accepted bid. Then, at that point in time, we.
in the bid, doesn't the bid state that an insurance
Yeah.
disclaimer and so forth are necessary for the bid to be accepted?
Right in the bid,
I-
it's in the bid.
Our
It's
question,
in the bid.
well,
It's not
how was he
specifically.
hired? Was there an ad in the paper? Or did someone vocally or by phone or email?
No, it
say
went out to
submitted
bid.
it?
No, it went out to bid.
Okay,
It was in the paper, it went out to bid, and like, look, part of it was liability insurance, I think workman's comp was in it.
Yeah,
so it spelled all that out?
Yeah,
Okay.
right in the bid.
yeah, right in the bid.
And it can be put in the bid anytime, again, if he does either one of those projects, we put it all in the bid, you have to supply
Okay.
whatever you wanna supply.
But we
Which
still
that
need
makes
like
it
a
simple,
double line.
makes it simple, you don't have to involve the treasury department. He complies, when he submits the bid, he's got the stuff, done,
And if he doesn't have the stuff, he doesn't get the bid.
that's correct.
Alright, but we still have to get the I'll have to write them
Okay.
again, because
Okay.
we have to do for income tax purposes.
Okay.
I mean, we need, I realize that we need to comply with whatever regulations, statutes apply. And I know that we're buying our insurance from VLCT, I suspect, I believe.
Yes,
And they have requirements as to what we need to do in order to be run through their program.
exactly.
So there's a give and take involved and an overview that needs to happen. I
We
just
have to
a
show
sense
them
that,
as a lost payee.
you know, there's a need to be a little more specific in certain situations. And remembering, we did not hire these people to do, although the other two contractors, the window and the shed, provided us, I believe, with those documents early on in their project. The way the sign thing came down and fell into being, it was a totally different scenario.
Right, and I know the electrician's gonna supply all that paperwork, I talked to him on the phone.
Yeah, we don't have to beat a dead horse, no.
Okay.
Anytime we put out something at the bid, we just make, boom, you gotta have this, and this.
Right.
Next case,
Thank you
Yeah.
guys.
Alright, we'll move on here. Letter two, okay, next item here, letter of intent to participate in the municipal roads grant and aid program of equipment purchase. Alright, on October 8th, checking my email, I got an email from Jeff Nugent. And he said that he noted that Brookline had not applied for a municipal road grant and aid program. And he thought that we were missing out on a great opportunity.
Nice.
And would I be able to sign up for it before the end of the day, it had to be in by 5 o'clock. So we talked, so he sent me the information and I looked it over, and I did an executive decision, and I asked him, I said, do I need to have 3 select board signatures on it? He goes, no, you're just signing a letter of intent, it's non-binding, and you don't have to accept the grant, but if we don't get it by 5 o'clock today, then you'll be out of it. So I talked to him, I talked to Jeff, I tried finding Mark, I talked to Mark after 4 o'clock, but I had already sent this in. And found out again, the people up at Stratton, this is a piece of equipment that can be used on a wheeled excavator to clean out debris for culverts and ditching. And it's this particular case, it's a leaf blower attachment to clean leaves and sediment from ditches and reduce culvert plugging. The estimated cost of the equipment based on the grant is $7,000. It's an 80% grant, $600. We pay 20%. It's a non-binding. I did sign it. I did take a photograph of it and I sent it in. And Mark thought that was good.
Yeah, I know for a fact that the town of Dummerston has this leaf blower. They also own a Kubota tractor that you can have it on the back of the tractor and you can point this air supply into the ditch and it blows the leaves.
Is that like the one we borrowed from Newfane?
Didn't
we borrow one time?
No, I think we need to talk
Bring it
about
to
it,
us.
but then we'll get one. But I guess all the towns are getting them now because they work so well. They'll
want us to
remove
be signed?
sticks and
No,
leaves
yes.
and
Gotcha.
I don't know how much wind power the thing
I know what
has,
you're
but it
doing.
has
I
an
know what you're doing.
8-inch
Oh, one for each.
blower pipe that you can angle. different- Some applications are in a bucket loader on the front. They put it in the right corner. You could probably put it on a receptacle hitch on a 1-ton dump truck, which most towns have, go back to a pickup truck. But again, the one excavator we did talk about does have a hitch receptacle in the blade. And I guess that's what Stratton is in hopes to.
Right. Well, you had said that it would be either that or the hay shredder, and I had already
Yeah.
gone with this, so you.
Yeah, I think the leaf blower would be a big priority, just keep the
Keep it
ditches,
cleaned out, people just.
keep your drainage
Not when
working,
you don't have equipment to hitch it to.
right? Well, yeah, I believe it would fit on the back of the my pickup truck. If we
You could
did
do it that way as well.
So.
Wow,
great.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next item, discuss vote to appoint Guy Tams as a temporary administrative assistant to work on the FEMA application and reports at a normal hourly rate as town clerk. Monies are 100% refundable by FEMA. The sample letter I just passed out, Guy, I wanna double check, it was $21.75.
$121.75, yes.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking
All right,
Christmas
I'll make
gifts.
that motion that we appoint Guy Tans as town clerk as the select board's temporary administrative assistant to work on the FEMA reporting with the declared disaster of July 29th and 30th, 2021. The hourly rate is to be set at $21.75 per hour, which is his current hourly pay as town clerk. May I have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Who's starting?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I was gonna refuse it.
Motion made by Don Maggi, I'm gonna write it down here, motion second by Bruce and Mello.
OW.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those,
By a little fast for me. Could you email me the text?
the text, absolutely, I'll email you the term, okay. What am I doing? Oh,
All those in favor?
all those in favor in appointing Guy Tans as the temporary assistant, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any
And I
opposed?
say no if I seconded it.
No.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We did have our first meeting. It was, yeah, we had it here in the office and it
We,
was,
Guy and I sat down last Tuesday, we went online and we put in our application. I have not gotten anything, I have to check.
no, and I haven't either.
So I'm gonna, tomorrow, that's on my list is to double check on that application because we went through, we pulled it
I've been looking
online
for it.
twice and got everything done that I thought needed to be done. but I'm gonna do the FEMA call tomorrow, put this on my list. Okay, very good, so I have this, is an official form, I'll make a copy, 2175. All right, so. All right. Okay. Sort of review. All right, a request asking, okay, I got an email request asking for the Brookline Selectboard to collaborate on a letter regarding the flying of a Nazi flag in Townsend during the Jewish holidays earlier in October. The letter is to be sent to the Townsend Select Board. I said I would put it on the agenda. Some of the suggested terminology that I saw in other paperwork was that Brookline supports it will come to me. Basically a very statement saying Brookline is where we supports well.
Do you know what the actual event was? Does anyone really know what the actual event is? I've read different cover stories about it. And I'm just curious, because there was a thing about free speech and some people were, some people had flags on their house there with the Christian thing. And so, I'm just, you have to be careful because you're stepping on free speech. And this was a Townsend event. And I'm just wondering, should the town of Brookline weigh in on the Townsend's thing? I don't know.
I am gonna say that I don't think that addressing the flag as free speech is something that I wanted to do. However, I do want to say that we look for communities in our valley to be welcoming and non-biased. No, Bruce.
Forget it. That's my opinion. Stay out of it. This is politics.
Exactly.
We have no business, look, I hate, watch my wordage here. I go by that building every Sunday when I go to church, or when I'm working up at the church, and I look at, and it's her right to do whatever she pleases.
Correct.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I wouldn't do with it, but this is not, in my estimation, something that the town select board should weigh in on. That's my opinion. I know, I'd love to, I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's just
That's
not,
what I feel. I don't think it's a good idea.
it's not
We don't
town
have to
business.
deal with it.
It's not
We don't
town
have to
business.
deal with somebody else's
It's
problem.
not.
If at the town meeting, someone brings it up in it as an article later on, the things that we could, then the town should have the opportunity to say that. But for a select board, and again, this is just my opinion, to weigh in on something that's a political football, I think is a little
We don't need it.
precarious.
We don't have enough to do. We don't need to be.
You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I'm not saying we should ignore something like
Yeah.
this, but something wasn't done to another person of Brookline. So as far as I'm concerned, we should leave it that. I don't know how Stan you feel about
I am aware of that property and the ownership of it. That this would happen isn't a total surprise. Not that particular issue, but in any other issue.
Yeah.
That, because the other signs, I think, are an indication.
Yeah.
There's a willingness to exercise free speech.
Yeah.
If we are to do anything, I would simply, I wouldn't mind making a statement to the effect that Brookline believes in a welcoming community. It's the rights to exercise freedoms, and does not condone racial, religious, or any other biases, or something general like that, without really taking a stand on this particular issue.
Exactly, but I know this Brookline the select board has made a statement when asked for something with new thing, and it was very general, I'm saying we believe in a welcoming community.
Right, with the Black Lives Matter thing back in Newfane, yes,
do something specific.
Correct.
right.
That's, I'm not asking,
I think we're on the same page.
Yes.
Because
Nothing specific. We can
my
work
first thought was, that's the town of Townsend. I don't wanna be viewed as a
Right.
Brookline citizen
Oh, yeah.
commenting on what Townsend should be doing.
You got that
And so
right.
the most logical thing would, to me, would seem, since, I think most people in the town of Brookline are welcoming of citizens,
Mhm.
regardless of what their religious
Right.
affiliations are, skin color, gender.
Yeah.
All of those aspects upon which some people in society exercise bias. And I think if we just keep it as general as that, I think that makes a statement about about us as a town and the people that we represent, and that we're proud to be able to say that. The thing that I found interesting was, I believe at that meeting, the towns of Dummerston, Wardsboro, Jamaica, Newfane, and maybe one other were quoted as already making some kind of statement. From the politics side of it, I think it would not hurt us to make a very general statement.
Vague,
You're saying that they all did it from the.
but by the same
politics side.
token, I
don't
think,
know. I'm not alleging what they did at all.
Oh, okay.
All I'm clarifying is that Mrs. Kessler, who did the speaking to the Townsend Select Board, made that statement. I assume it's accurate. It may or may not, but it would seem to
But
me,
you said it was, she said it was political.
no, I'm not saying that
I'm
either.
sorry, misunderstanding.
Yeah, I'm not introducing politics in
No,
this.
no, I'm sorry. I
Any,
just-
when I'm saying political, I guess what I should say is the image that this town projects. You can say nothing, or you can say something very general and not get into the decision or discussion about that Nazi flag on that property.
I just think that you should have a full select board make that decision.
Well, I don't know, if there are 4 people and a vote is taken, you'll know
Yeah.
whether or not there's a majority, whether irrespective.
Okay, I'm just giving everybody a chance
We
to
can
weigh
wait till
in.
later, but it's on the agenda for it being addressed now, if you want to place it further down on the agenda, we could do that.
Alright, so well, let's temporarily table this at this time.
Okay. Fuck me too.
Okay. Alright, music at the Brookline Meeting House in
Okay.
November
Ooh.
6th discussion. So just briefly, this is an interesting call came in this morning from Peter Sears, a gentleman with the British accent who attended 2 of our open houses this summer. He reached out to Wendy Redlinger about getting some musical instruments into the Brookline Meeting House to hear the acoustics of the building, and she was very interested in the project. She would like to bring a few musicians out to the building on November 6th to tune up and to play a bit. I just received their contact information and will fill you in as they learn more. Peter said she was interested in our organ, and so I forwarded the research done by Ned Phoenix. She has great interest in early music and period instruments. So, while I don't believe this is something that we're talking about opening to the public because of the deficiencies in our ADA and the liability insurance and that, I think just like an open house, having this happen is a step forward and not a step backwards. I would like to support this, but we're gonna go through and get everybody's opinion on it. Bruce?
I've done a lot of work on this in the last 2 weeks. And acoustically, we don't have it there. But I've, like I said, thought a lot about it. I've done a lot of work. I'll try and make it as concise as possible. And I don't want to dissuade the people from coming. I want them to be there. I'd like to talk to them about it. And the last thing I want them to have happen is to come there and say, well, I don't know, let us know in a couple of years when you do a little bit better with the building.
They're just coming to tune up, they're not coming to play.
I know that.
Concert, okay.
But they have a reason for being there. They're doing it, if I understand correctly, to see if it's amenable to them playing there. No,
Not necessarily.
then what, why are they coming to tune up?
She's
Why are they
interested in, well, I think you,
Okay,
go ahead, I'll let you go ahead.
no, I'm letting you
Pretty much,
explain what she
somebody
said.
came to the open house
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah,
And they talked about, and I guess may have been one of the times when the organ was being played. And so I know somebody who knows somebody who might also like, it's a beautiful room.
yeah,
So,
I wanna
you know,
know that.
So could we, so I think it was just pretty much, let's come in.
Okay, I'm not into dissuading them from doing anything like that. What I'm into preventing from happening is if we have a major event and it acoustically doesn't work and driving people out of the place.
We're not having a major event, this is
No, I don't
just
mean now, I mean in the near future. Okay, I took it, I went and ran with it, you know that,
I
Stan
need
knows
to.
that. Because this is closer to me than anything else that we've ever spoken about in this room. And I have made a number of calls and phone calls, and what I did is I immediately went in and checked whether. Back up. Back in early 2014, 2015, when I went to one of the seminars, I learned about that you could get an acustician to come and take a look at the building. There, it was done at some building in Brattleboro. I didn't follow it up. It was one of those future things because we weren't quite ready for that. Okay, so well, this time I punched in, Stan kind of knows, I spoke to him a little bit about it. And what came up was Brattleboro Music Center. And it turns out that they, I think, bought a building or got a building and expanded it and made it acoustically correct. And basically what they did was they constructed an addition or a building over on this now Blanchemont East Way, which is past the Greenery Bridge. And it's in, everybody can take a look at tomorrow or whatever, Brattleboro Music Center, what they did to this building to make it acoustically correct. So, okay. And then I called them and found out their hours, and a nice lady said, you know, if you want to take a tour, I'd love to show you a short tour about it. Great. Stan's great idea that I was discussing with Stan a little bit last weekend, and Stan came up with a great idea that I should consult the meeting house, the church committee members to see if they'd be interested in going with me if I go and do this. Great idea. We'll definitely entertain that. But I took it another step further. I called the company, Acoustic, excuse me if I remember right. They're out of Cambridge, Mass. I got a phone call from a very nice guy that lives in Leiden, and he made a number of recommendations, of some of which were to, yeah, I'm not gonna go over more of this. He made a lot of suggestions that I'm entertaining at this point, as to helping us make this building usable for music.
Alright, but this is just the first step, so you're okay with the first step?
Absolutely, I'm gonna go
I'm
see them.
I'm in favor of the first step. I mean, maybe they just need a place to practice, who knows? But it doesn't, if they're not committing to anything, they're not asking us to commit anything.
Right.
They wanna go in there and see what it sounds like, I'm comfortable with that. I would like to clarify something. The concepts and some of the issues that
Did I
Bruce was talking
misquote
about.
you, Stan?
Well, I think it's just a misunderstanding. I'm in favor at some point of having this kind of thing done. But right now, we don't have the time, the money, there are other things that need to come first.
Yeah.
And we need to have a consensus of what the order is, and this may or may not fit into it anywhere in the near future. It needs to be done with at an appropriate time, and so I don't, that's just where I come from. I'm
Well, then I
not
can-
supporting it in terms of it being now done, yesterday, tomorrow. It's gotta be looked at in perspective of everything else there.
Well, what I thought of, Stan, was your suggestion was great, and I think I'm gonna go to this on the 6th and talk to Leanne about it a little bit, see how they feel. And if they wanna table it for now, fine, I might go over there on my own. I think your suggestion was great, including them, since I was doing it in relation to the church committee, to the church. So if they don't wanna do it, fine, I'm still gonna go down there and look at the building, just my own blanking giggles.
What do you think about November 6th, having the musicians come in to do a little practice rehearsal?
I agree with whatever they, I don't see any, it's not gonna hurt to look.
I will say that temperatures are dropping, and that building is cold in the summer. So I would almost, frankly, if I were to interact with them, I'd say, could they do it next summer early when it's more to their liking? I don't know what kind of instruments they're gonna use, their hands might be cold, their lips might be cold, might be metal on lips. To me, this doesn't look like a good time.
It was a harpsichord.
I don't know.
But it's their lips and their fingers.
I'm gonna let them know that, no problem if they wanna go in and just dress appropriate.
I just wanna know.
It's an opportunity to bring in friends to that building in the future.
Somebody
So,
else.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right.
so I think
And
we-
I would just like to be there when they're there, that's all I'm asking, and I'll do my personal stuff first.
Alright, excellent. Alright, next thing we'll go to old business,
Um,
job,
Recommend-
review, job description for road supervisor. Now, Stan, you sent in the updates, you and David had worked on it. Did you say we should table this one more time, did you suggest?
I believe I did, because it's like most everything that came in, it's coming in today. Time schedules and performance and other impinging factors on our lives. And so the choice was, do I wait until a week, or if I'm in the mood and I've got the incentive to try to get to the meeting tonight with as many things done that I promised, irrespective of whether we get to review them, I've got no problem, and if no one else has a problem, just putting out the next meeting, that's fine with me personally.
Okay, because we are at 8 o'clock already and you're okay.
Yeah, I feel the same way. There's never enough time to prepare for anything.
Mark your hires.
And if I can interject one other thing, I know David obviously did some work on it, I did some work on it. I sent everyone a PDF copy of the modified version, which shows you those things that David did, those things that I did. And there may be other thoughts that other people here have. Please, this isn't, I'm not presenting this as a final version,
Yeah.
but simply as to be worked on again if needed.
All right, I am tabling this to the next meeting, and by then we should all have a chance to look over it and decide on which format we'll do, and I think that will be fine. All right, very good. Move through these pages. Okay. Discuss review Vermont Municipal Loan Fund for equipment purchase. So Stan sent out a summary for the municipal loan fund purchase information here, and I thought this was pretty straightforward. The interesting thing here, though, is if we are gonna go for a loan, the date has passed us for the October 15th application deadline. But there's an application for April 15th, in which case the approval would be in June.
Can I comment?
No
on
later
that?
than June 30th.
Can I comment? I sent Stan, did you see my emails?
I did.
So no way, Jose, for now?
I haven't asked them because, to be honest with you,
You know me, I was like,
the
things done
one
yesterday.
time I looked at the minutes, that whole thing seemed to be in their time frame. I didn't go back and look through the minutes. If you want me to ask that, I'd be happy to. I suspect they're gonna say no.
Okay, because you stated in that letter that they make a conclusion by the end of the year.
Correct.
So, maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse because we don't have anything yet, and it's kind of pushing the issue, but that's all for you all to
Well,
discuss.
that's, you're talking about, apparently within the next 30 days, having a piece of equipment selected, researched.
I know.
I don't even think from our perspective that's realistic. We probably want
Well, I wanna
to
see
leave
what-
time and scheduling for next spring would seem to be, we can prepare a town budget, taking it into effect, we're dealing with a budget. And there are a lot of other things that, and we're literally looking at, do we want that model? Do we want that number? There are a number of decisions that think that can be made, which in 30 days with 2 meetings maximum between now and then, doesn't seem like a real,
Plus everything else
maybe
we're
one
doing.
meeting, doesn't seem like a realistic thing to consider.
Mark wants, can I?
I just
be the
think
chair?
also, the big question is, how much is available on this loan? So we know what we're shopping.
Yeah, what
The max
size
is
loan
100.
you're looking at, that's right.
Yeah,
The max is
there's- I mean,
$110.
there's all different prices out there, so we kind of need to know
Exactly.
what parameter to.
This is
shop
$110. And we gotta come up with the difference between that and the sale price.
Right,
If the equipment costs 110, we're gonna pay 25% of the 110 and they'll finance.
Yeah, they do the 80%, what do they do, 80%?
No, it's 25.75.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So 110,000 is the capital, Mark. So if you. Right, if it's $140,000, we're gonna have to come up with the difference between 110 and the 140 plus the 25%.
so I think this is information that we need to have when we sit down and brainstorm on the actual
With
equipment
the budget.
and budgeting process. But I thought it well set up, and I have also the initial loan information that you sent to us, so it's something just to be aware of. All right, and now we have a deadline that we can look at how hard is the application? Maybe we could get a printout of what the
It looks pretty
application.
easy.
Yeah, it's pretty
I sent it
simple.
out before, previously. It's
Oh,
pretty
okay, that's in
simple.
here,
Yeah,
okay,
that's-
Yep, it's in the applications there.
yeah, okay, that's this one,
One of the things that we don't know is that,
this one.
well, we kind of do it. It looks like we might have to provide them with a financial statement for the town, which we could print out from them
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah, that's a standard.
Yeah. Whether or not
SOP.
want a town auditor's statement.
Right.
It seems to me like they're pretty fair in terms of not being overly restrictive in requirements, not trying to make things difficult as opposed to trying to facilitate things.
All right, so we'll move on, that we have that information and maybe for discussion at another time, but loan. Okay, moving on. Make sure anybody waiting to come in, discuss job description, done. National opioid settlement discussion from the Attorney General Office of the state of Vermont. We got that last month and it was too late to actually have any time to discuss it. Does anybody have an opinion as far as next steps and if we wish to become a part of it?
Well, from what I saw, the more people that apply for it, the chances of the state getting more money. But I don't see, when I read my letter, it didn't seem that it really had anything to do with the town of Brookline per se. I'm not so sure that the town would, and again, I read it fast, would reap any rewards from it. But that's, we still have, the window of opportunity is still open to reply to it. So it would be something to really look at hard, but from my initial looking, it didn't seem to affect much of the town of Brookline.
That's how I saw it too, but it was.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up is that, and A, it's a source of money. B, which needs to, I think, happen before any real discussion about it occurs, is find out what triggers an application to be accepted, what paperwork, reporting we need to get into in order to get the money, which may answer the question of, are we qualified in terms of any opioid addiction we might have in town that we may or may not be aware of, and whether or not that would trigger societal mechanism in that program that says, oh, you're entitled to $5,000. Next question is, are we required to spend that in any particular fashion?
Yeah.
So I looked at it as a source of money. I think one of us or some of us ought to look at what the specifics are, and then at a meeting in the future, decide to either can it or pursue.
Stan, I'd be glad to sit down with you and talk about this. Guy, I don't remember if there was when they said this needed to be in by.
January, yes.
Okay, so we have.
Yeah, there's quite a window of
All
opportunity.
right, so Steve, if you don't mind, I'm gonna put it down at some point between now and Christmas.
Yeah.
You and I will get
Sounds
together and, okay.
I just didn't want to let a gift horse pass.
Oh,
us
yeah,
up,
no.
Gotcha.
But by the same token, with this incredible infusion of money that we're getting from everywhere, there's more things cropping up now than ever cropped up before. And you wonder if it really impacts you or not. And then what if you do, what do you have to give in return?
Exactly, so what is the real,
Yeah.
what's the real
You
package look
summarized
like?
it beautifully.
Yeah.
All right, very good, so we will look into that. All right, item D, discuss and appoint one additional member to the Regional Emergency Management Committee. Brookline has 2 voting members, the local EMD director designate, which is me, and a representative of the local emergency service communities to be appointed by your executive or legislative branch. November 16th is the first meeting, there are 4 meetings a year. Is there anyone who's interested in attending these webinar meetings with me? We are all part of the Regional Emergency Management Committee. And if not, I was gonna ask Mark if he would work with me, attend a meeting online, and because when there's another emergency storm.
Yeah.
It's Mark's the one who we have to turn to, because
When is the seminar? When is the webinar?
It's November 16th.
What day is that?
It's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Is that something?
Because the office would be available if you wanted to.
It's not, we could come here and we could Zoom in on their meeting.
Okay.
We can sit together.
I don't have anything at home and.
Right. Would you be
And you
interested
could watch
in
it right
being?
through there, right?
Sure, I would.
Yeah, right through here.
Yeah, pretty.
Yeah,
and
do
if
it
you
right
can't
here.
make it, at least there's one of us.
Use a
I
town
can
Zoom
make it.
account.
I thought you're the one one that knows what happens when the road emergency, that's who we look to, so. if-
So you can zoom in on that.
Yeah, we could watch it.
Yeah,
Right,
we
yeah,
can run it through here.
Okay,
All
yeah,
right.
I can do it with you. That
Yes.
would be great.
All right, so I am gonna contact them and give them our mutual information and that makes me quite happy. All
Bring
right.
your own coffee and donuts, she doesn't bring anything.
Okay.
How about popcorn?
8 o'clock in the morning.
All right, very good. All right, the last thing under old business is the placement of the handicap sign that I wanted to talk to you all about as far as here in town. Now, we looked outside here and I talked with Mark and I talked with Gwen and what's his name over there, Guy, earlier today before the light went away. I realized if anything placed over here, we have a snow load that comes off the roof right past the ramp. So again, probably the best place would be perpendicular to where Guy parks his car.
That's fine. Wherever you,
This is the building.
So, yeah, this is the
Guy parks
building, here's the
here.
flagpole, here's where Guy
Right
parks.
there.
If we put the sign here, and then here's the steps to go into the building, and here's the ramp. So if we put the sign here, it's not, people can park, like we normally park back here. And this is where Guy's park, so something where I was showing you here, there's probably a big brush here, so, you know. Is that all right?
I think so.
I mean, pretty much, we're just gonna spray paint a couple of lines.
yeah,
Not everybody comes in a wheelchair that has a handicap.
just the
And
town
snow
clerk.
is gonna be covered anyway.
Yes, but the sign will be above the ground, so that's, and you'll
This is
have,
your contribution,
and you have to work it out with him with the school.
already done.
Okay.
I've already got approval orders, I would like.
Okay,
In fact, I took.
You got the map, Mark?
Mark, I did talk to you about that, didn't I?
No, I'll have to get a copy of the map there for you.
Mark,
No, I'm
Oh,
joking,
snap.
yeah.
Mark, did I mention to you about where they agreed to at school?
I got a general idea, but I had you clarified for.
Here's the front of the old building. Go up to the stairs, go up to the building. You know where they plant all the crap in the front there?
Yeah.
Just to the right of the steps, right there. Just before you're walking up to the building.
so if this is where the little cupola is and here's your sidewalk into the building, you're saying to put it here,
Correct,
okay,
right where the plants are.
okay,
There's
I'll show you my map later.
And it's on Google Earth.
It's on Google Earth.
Town clerk report, Guy Tanza.
Ooh, they're breaking along here.
Just a quick reminder that the real estate market is still robust and it's starting to peter out, but still we've been very busy. And I did get a notification in regards to the redistricting of the town of Brookline with the legislative district that I'm just looking at right now. And if necessary, we'll call a board of civil authority meeting. Other than that, I don't see anything important. I did send you a dog report. We have
I got
100 dogs registered. I think there's still 20, 25 that still need to be looked at. We've been very lenient this year. We've given no penalties, no fines because of the COVID, but the reality of this, rabies are a very serious thing and people need to take that very serious with their animal. So those who haven't come in yet, please come in so we have you on record.
Tell them what we had in our front yard.
Oh, we had a bobcat in our front yard over
You
in.
know, right out of the living room window, that little stone wall.
20 feet from the house.
Right, not even, I don't even think it was 10 feet. Come walk behind the stone wall, walk in front of the house, and I opened the door and said, get out of here.
Oh,
Well, I
that's,
first tried to
They're
keep
pretty
it,
common.
that didn't work.
They're pretty common for cats.
But anyway, so that's pretty much where we are.
yeah, don't call the animal control officer for wild animals. All right, anything else, guys?
No, that's it.
Select board report, I spoke with, Emmett Larson of Larson Electric, he'll be working here at Town Hall on Wednesday the 17th, he'll come in at 8:30, he'll call me and I'll come down and unlock the building. I will point out the additional work that was beyond what we had on our scope, so if he has to, if he decides to charge us for the extra wiring, the mouse panels in
Okay.
that corner, then I'll say, you know, send us a $20,
Okay.
whatever the billing is for that separate, it's beyond the cost of that, what was approved by the select board. Okay, all right, ARPA. I sent you all just a brief summary of the most recent ARPA webinar I went to, listening, and again, today, the governor sent out the governor made a press release that now some of this money has been released for people to get winterization and such, so that the state ARPA money is being spent on. So again, we're still in a holding pattern. The idea is continuing to think big, and I did have one question that I sent in, and they're gonna research it a little bit. My question is, when I said that I typed in, and they said they have to do research, can local ARPA funds be used to provide grants to residents to subsidize the expenses that they incurred on personal property such as driveways, culverts, debris cleaning, and primary home flood damage that was not covered by their homeowner's insurance? I don't know. So we're gonna, if FEMA doesn't cover it, because, right, so can we use some ARPA money to directly benefit some of our people in town? And they're gonna find out. So just let us know, because just to start, we have to start making a list of where you think appropriately we can spend ARPA money.
Did you, there was a mention about ADA and septic in that.
Yes, there.
Does that mean that there could be consideration, maybe we could do that for the church?
Yes, and that's why I put that, that's why I put on here possibly that's something that might be for church, because they'll be doing ADA enhancements. But the septic system, I checked with Carrie Bourne, he said the septic over there is fine,
It's a steel tank.
but it's a steel tank, but it's fine, because you know, we use it. Anyway.
Well, wait a minute, but if we can get the money to put in a concrete tank, wouldn't that be a little bit more?
True, but that's something that
Plus, if anybody ever drives over that steel tank, guess what? The steel's over. I would suggest that if we can get the money, we're gonna have to be looking for. In that letter, there was also explanation about combining towns for one thing that's out of the town. And what I'm getting at is if we can use this money for things that in town, we should consider that.
right, if we can use it for money in town versus saying we're gonna give it to Grace Cottage or we're gonna give it to Restaurant. That's why I asked about. Sure. So we'll find out. The other thing I was interested in is that, you know, Newfane has got their planning commission working on the ARPA funding, and I think that's something that I'm gonna ask our planning commission to get more involved in, because it's really just, I'm gonna use the word overwhelming.
Well, that whole loan is just so vague right now, it's
Yeah.
really difficult to make any.
There's no, they took away the October 31st deadline
Yep.
to do an original plan. You know, we're still like a little bit spinning our wheels.
Katie said, take
She
your
ran-
time.
Yeah, no, there's,
So let's, you know, put the money in the bank.
She was the one that ran this workshop.
Well, there you go.
All right, moving on. FEMA, well, we did the assistance. Oh, Mark. Will we have all the billing except for the paving on repairs for Putney Mountain, or everything else is done as far as you're concerned?
We're close.
Close, okay. So you still need to identify whenever you put in what was what. And then at some point, Guy and I will sit down and we'll dissect this a little bit more details, and we might need you to help us with that at some point. But we should do an RFP for the paving. Would you suggest that we put it out for public? How much, what do you think we're looking at footage wise?
Footage wise,
Because
I didn't multiply the square feet, I measured the lengths and widths
okay,
to put in as an RFP. Then there's some jagged edges that will probably be cut 2 feet wide to correct, and then length. Archie thought somewhere in the $20,000 range for blacktop.
For blacktop repairs. All right, so we,
Because there's prep and there's the prep to do before you dig back out where we've made it passable. And then they put in crushed gravel, needs to be compacted and maybe left for a while before paved on. And what he mentioned last night was he talked with one town, and there's two ways you can either go direct with a paving company and they do it all, or you put it out for a contractor who would come in and prep it, and then they hire whoever to do that paving. So he
Right.
said there's two ways you can do that.
all right, so what I'm gonna suggest is I'm gonna probably give you a call and sit down again and go over this, but we do need to do some kind of RFP for, we
Now-
don't wanna, we want that to be included in monies that FEMA will cover.
And now, and again, I talked with Archie, and then we realized that we're at the end of the season. If our weather changes, the actual job may not take place this year. And if it takes place, if we word it so that there's a deadline, I'm not sure exactly when the paving season would open back up. But it would allow, if we do get the RFP out, we would have people looking for work for next.
Well, we have to see what FEMA says about that, I guess.
Right, so I'm gonna have to
The window of opportunity for the deadline, we need to know how far out we can do those repairs.
All right, so I'm gonna email the woman from FEMA and, at least she gave that speech.
Yeah.
And, I'll find out a little bit more about that and the deadline for actually getting the paving based upon the season that paving is done, not in the winter. All right, okay, good, and what else?
Oh, good.
Okay, Wyndham Regional Foreman's Meeting, 9 AM on Wednesday, October 27th at the Dover Town Garage. And I was talking to Jeff Nugent when we were dealing with the October 8th thing, and he says, it's something you should go to, and I said, all right, I can certainly go there, and they're gonna have it in the garage, so it'll be open. He said there's gonna be donuts, so
Oh, coming.
coffee. So
I'm
I
in.
asked Mark if he wanted to go, and he said yes, so I'm gonna bring some. So we're gonna go to the foreman's meeting on the 27th. So that's good. Budget meeting schedule. What do you wanna do? Yes, Bruce,
Ugh.
because we have a meeting November 3rd.
And we're talking with this without David here, but we gotta set aside a whole meeting, correct?
Yeah, I think that'd be
That's easier
an
then.
extra meeting.
Yeah, do we wanna do this at a night or a weekend? Man, like we used to do it at night, we used to do it as another select board meeting,
Right.
just for a budget meeting. We can.
Saturday morning would be nice, 10 o'clock Saturday morning, no?
Touching Saturdays.
Oh, okay. Well, in the winter, there's not much going but snow.
Well, it's not winter.
Well, we got November, we gotta get this going here,
Yeah.
so I don't wanna wait. We
This
can
is
do the
another
first
thing
meeting,
going
we
on,
can do a first meeting at evening. And I was thinking of saying November 10th. It's another Wednesday. It would mean 3-week meetings in a row, the 10th, the 3rd, the 10th and 17th.
Well, you gotta do it sometimes.
So have our first meeting on the 10th. Could you check this guy and see if there's another planning meeting on that day, maybe?
Well, what day?
The November 10th?
Nothing's on the calendar.
Okay.
Will we have everything together first?
If not, then I will let you know, but I'm gonna ask for those, whatever we can get
Because
going.
we got a lot to hammer out with that.
Alright,
We got
so I am a little nervous.
real next
The planning commission is usually on Thursdays and the Democratic meeting is usually on Tuesdays and Wednesday select board meetings, so
Alright, so
we're in
November 10th,
relatively good shape right now.
6:30, is that still,
Yeah.
let's keep it that way, 6:30 on. And
So
we'll
write it in for the 10th.
yes, okay.
November 10th,
Yes, a meeting for the 10th budget meeting, select board.
6:30?
Yes, sir. All right, last but not least,
6 and 7?
Oh, yes.
yes, six, it was, oh, six,
The ARPA workshop.
okay, ARPA.
And you-
Okay,
Belongs.
on October 28th and 29th, and it was mentioned at the ARPA meeting yesterday, there's a placemaking workshop that I want to attend. Again, it's virtual, so it's not so bad, it's 2 hours each morning, and it's looking at how we can improve public space by using some of our ARPA money. And I was thinking that our field, I saw the sign was taken down, the gates are fixed, the baseball sign was taken down and put in storage.
Oh, they
today.
fixed the front
Dan, I
fence?
apologize, I didn't tell you that there was a spur of the moment. I went and I replaced the split rail fence post, and it went really good, it's easy digging. And then I walked across to just take a look at what I was seeing, and I thought, oh, well, that looks easier than I thought, it was smaller than I thought. So I backed right up with my trailer right to it, I broke the knotweed down. And I thought, well, if I can just wiggle it and lift it up and tip it down on the trailer, I can take it to the garage. Well, it had cement poured around it. So I dug down to the cement. One of them freed up from the cement and I could lift. The other side wiggled a little bit, but wouldn't give up. And in the process, on the back, the sign is a aluminum. It's a pre-made aluminum with print for the scoreboard and everything. The wood on the back of that was rotted and it was starting to come apart. I had a drill with me, so I completely dismantled, put it on the trailer carefully, and I've got it in the garage. All the pieces are there, can be reassembled with some new wood if
Okay.
ever needed to be.
Thank
But
you,
it went easy
thank you.
with that.
You're the man. My feelings are not hurt.
So before I do it,
I didn't want you to be upset, I didn't call you,
No.
and,
Quite all right.
but I know you were there if I needed you and.
That's all you need to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I just thought participants of the workshop will be eligible to apply for one of 6 $4,000 grants. So if I can get a $4,000 grant to fix up something around by going to a meeting, then
Yeah.
All right, so that was that was number 6, and number 7. Marjorie Ray is our representative to DV Fiber, the CUD, and according to the workshop I went to, it's very good that Brookline did sign up for it because it's really going to be a good impact. But there's another gentleman that moved into town who has contacted Marjorie and who was interested in being an alternate, and his name is Donald Demaney, DEMAINE, a new resident in town. So he's going to be attending a meeting, and if he likes it, he's gonna ask for an appointment to the committee. So I just wanted to let you know that. Somebody
What was
did-
his name, Robert?
Donald,
Donald.
DEMAINE.
where did he move to, do you know?
I don't know, I looked him up and it looked like it was a Connecticut information, but
Spell that
Okay.
again, please.
Like to see your name, proceed.
DEMAINE. So,
Well, I just wonder if he's a renter or a property owner.
I don't know. So I just wanted to let you know about that as well.
That's
Okay, next, Bruce, Commissioner's building report.
Okay.
Time's up.
You know, this is not fair. Okay, here we go. All right. I'll start off with town office. Stan and I met with Scott back when, and we had an exchange between this building and the church.
Was it last week, Thursday, or Friday?
Yeah, something like that. And well, we weren't entirely really ecstatic about it for sure. We came and looked at the building and didn't offer to fill a hole that was on the end of the house, on the end of the building that had a mouse hole that kind of bumped us out. I'm not gonna get too long-winded on the church part. We can talk about that later, but I also had him look at the church and we have gotten rid of that, and the steeple's not sealed, and we can talk about that at another time. And he said he would send me a quote, and he hasn't done it yet. Stan and I are a little bit, I don't wanna speak for you, Stan, you cut me off. A little bit dismayed that he didn't, that he was a little more aggressive with our senior as far as helping us to tighten it up a little bit. So we're gonna just have to do it on our own at this point. And if you want, and it led to us thinking that the kind of ideas that he had for, or quote for the church, whether we think that he would be the right person to do that work, we were discussing that as well, correct, Sam? Okay, so I'm not gonna get into that right now, we'll do that another time. Now, I've been, excuse me, because you got 3 buildings, you gotta think of everything. I would still like to do the work bee, but I think maybe November, a little bit more user time once we get ourselves a little better organized, maybe. I don't think it's any big of a. Other than the making of doors, which is not the worst thing I could do. But we could take them off and maybe I can get a carpenter to fix them, but I'll work bee some Saturday morning, maybe in November before the weather gets prohibitive. We still got a good 5-6 weeks before we could start worrying about whether we're gonna have snow on our face. Too cold weather, I see.
According to
Okay.
Mark, not according to him, next week, but go ahead.
Well, the high elevation, we started to see a little bit of accumulation.
You can round circles all over my house, that's, the ladybug said it's gonna be 70 degrees tomorrow, we'll see. Anyway, I sent in the application to make us a supplier to make us so that we can get quote unquote to service our gas boilers.
Okay.
I'm waiting, I sent by email the other application last Thursday or Friday to Stephanie at Susie's for them to fill out their portion, in which case that would begin the step to then quote unquote taking over the gas. So I'm on that, I'm giving Stephanie until the end of the week, which is in 2 days, and if I don't hear from her, then because she had promised, you get it right back to me, and Olivia promised 4 times she would give me the consumption, and so I'm gonna stay right on it because the optimum thing is getting that. They don't want to have any gas, that's their problem, but I want the boiler to be serviced. Okay, so got that straightened out. That's basically it with that building. Oh, and one I think final thing is I gave a copy of the lease to Susie's to Stan to look at his when he wants to. And I think we should keep in mind that we're gonna be doing the budget. We're gonna be doing full tilt boogie through up until Thanksgiving. Susie Kudamarsh has to give us a notice by the end of December, a 6-month notice whether she's gonna re-up the lease for another 3 years.
She's planning on not returning yet.
Right, she has to tell us.
Okay.
But in as much as saying that, I think it would be a really good idea, if she's got five daycares, that somewhere in the first part of December, that before Christmas, submit to her
A letter.
the lease. The new lease, and by giving her the new lease, if she rejects it, and we get into that right now, because if by happenstance she doesn't wanna continue, which I don't think is gonna happen. We have to figure out in our budget about how to heat that building, so that's always on the back burner. You and I have been through this before. I don't see this to be a major thing. Stan was already made an idea of an addition to the lease about previous work done by the lessee that would make us responsible for her money back if she left. I think that's a good idea. We can get that involved in the lease and any other little changes. But you and I went over that lease last time really thoroughly.
I could try to find it and send you each a copy so that you can print, can you send it then to Stan so he
I
has a
think
copy?
so.
Oh, gosh, all right.
I have the lease, she's got to find the lease. So I would say
I've got
a
electronic.
couple of hour meeting somewhere early December, get us straightened. You got December 3rd. I would like to see us submit it to her before Christmas. So if we could get it approved somewhere around, I'm looking at November, damn, excuse me. we could do it somewhere around. There, we have a meeting there, if we could have it resolve what we're gonna do for a lease by the 15th, then we can approve it at a select board meeting and send it out to her. And what happened 2 leases ago, I can't stand this, that the previous lessee, Sunny Lane Daycare, kept us waiting for quite a period of time on responding to whether she was gonna accept this lease or not. So I think that the second time, this last time, we put a deadline on it. And we'll do that again, but if we give it to her on the, what did I say, the
15th.
15th, and give her to the 15th of January to respond to us, if she says, well, forget it, I'm pulling out, we're still before the auditors get our budget, we can make the appropriate changes to add to the budget if we have to keep the building or not.
Okay, good plan.
Okay, so just a minute, I think I'm done. Work beat. Yeah, yes.
Two comments.
Uh,
Just for clarification, the problem in this building is that in that corner, there
Yes,
appears to be a hole that goes down and comes out about the top of the landing here. It looks like they ate through the plastic and under there's a hole. So if the board doesn't mind spending between $14 and $16, we can buy a can of that stuff ourselves and just put it in that corner.
Yes, I think
Yes.
that's certainly.
The other thing is.
Better than having me complain about mine.
That's right.
Mice have rights.
And then the other thing is, I would very much appreciate a digital copy of the lease, because if we are gonna modify it,
Yeah,
it
that's
makes
how
it
I.
easier to deal with. Is that all right with you?
digital copy of the list, yeah, sure.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Because it's hard copy, and I don't wanna start scratching things out and going and typing it fresh.
Sure, we can let anyone alone. I was just gonna say she could read it, so, look at it. Yeah, sure.
All right, very good. Excellent, all right, so now, highways and roads.
Oh, God, I'm not going home now.
You're pretty
I'll
good.
make it short and sweet. Yeah.
Good.
We're gonna tell you the same thing we tell him, keep it short.
Okay. Well.
Everybody looks at the damn
South,
watch when I'm
that's-
talking.
I did too.
South, that's okay. The only thing, guys, if you do send the paperwork back, they usually give us an account number. And when I order salt, they ask for the account number.
Okay.
So if you
Yep.
can get that in return,
Is there an account number on it? Because we have an established account.
Customer number,
yes, customer number.
okay, yep, I'll give you, you'll get a, I'm gonna give you a copy of it when I get it signed.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, so since the last meeting, we installed the 3-foot diameter culvert up on Putney Mountain, just off of where the pavement used to be in the flood damage. And that also completed the road segment, road grant that we had for up there, so that is all complete. And I believe Jeff Nugent is gone or sent somebody to take pictures of that. Now it's just the matter of getting the paperwork completed. Also went around and mulched over all of the disturbed construction areas that I had opened up with the rented excavator. I also have this, I talked with John Swing and Bennett Road. It is a class 4 trail for the town. We do have some duties to keep it passable. And John still uses his camp. It's the only, well, it's not the only place on the road, but it's the only one on the class 4 part of it. And in between meetings, somebody had come through from Holland Hill and which is good road over within a half a mile of Swing's camp. They went in his camp and messed his camp up a little bit, nothing major, just, I don't know, turned things over and used the bathroom. and
Nice.
things, but anyway, there was a vehicle tried to come down the hill onto Putney Mountain Road from the camp and got stuck because it's so
Bad.
bad. And there is 5 culverts on the hill that we maintain. And the water now jumps all the water barriers that are separate from the culverts and comes clear down to Putnam Mountain Road. So I'm not sure where we're at with the budget. I walked up there to check it out when I was working up there. And there are some 2-foot and better grooves from where the water ate through the water barriers, came down, it exposed some of the culverts. I wondered if we could use maybe a 1 day with an excavator to use what materials are left there to reshape the road, flatten it out. Make some water bars with whatever's there, and also make some runouts that would allow the water to go away from the road. And at the same time, clean the inlets and outlets of the existing culverts so that they do work. I believe a 1 day with an excavator would make that road passable up to the camp.
Is it are we liable, or is it is a town responsibility? You're saying to keep the
Well, it's a class 4 road.
trail
Class 4,
passable.
it doesn't get huge maintenance, but we do, monitor it.
I do remember when we did the Greer Road and we did
Yeah.
travel up there and we said that was passable, so we didn't have.
Yeah,
So I do
so we,
remember
I
that.
think keep it passable. I was gonna get here a little bit early to read the orange handbook, see how it's worded, but I didn't get here early enough to do that. But I didn't. Go ahead, Steve.
I happen to be looking at requirements for road work in the past 2 weeks, and it's a very nebulous statement. It says the town is required to keep it passable. Doesn't say to what level passable,
Yeah,
whether.
Pretty vague.
It's always been pretty basic on that road, if I recall it,
right.
I can kind of describe it, so there is some liability that we have, a responsibility, it seems. I mean, that's what I just read recently
Yeah.
by chance.
So we're looking at about a grand probably.
What's that?
We're looking at about $1,000, I don't know,
Yeah.
roughly, because the
That was
excavator
my
goes,
guess,
what,
or-
$80, $90 an hour, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And, this would turn the water so that it doesn't come down to Putney Mountain.
Has there been damage done on Putney Mountain because of that particular?
During the flood,
Erosion.
but
Yeah.
also the damage that was on Putney Mountain Road itself, it just added to it. And now the water has stopped, but it's set up for if we do get more heavy rains that
I think we should
will come all the way to the bottom.
just do it.
I remember going up there, I once appraised that camp,
Okay.
and I recall that it was not very good.
Yeah.
Passable, but man, you needed four-wheel
You
drive,
needed four-wheel
lots of
drive.
ledge and rocks sticking out. And if you're lucky, you come out with your exhaust system still on the car.
Well, you've been taking care of that for years though, right?
Yeah, before I was working for the town, there was an agreement with Johnny's dad, Mr. Swing, would purchase materials that the town would apply them. And since then, Mr. Swing has passed away, but John now owns the camp, and I know that he would like to continue to have family gatherings and be able to.
So you don't think there's any additional materials, you're gonna use what's on site?
I think if you use what's on site, I think you could make it passable, because it's some coarse gravel, and coarse gravel will stay in place better than anything else.
My memory is getting worse as I get older. Back when that agreement was made with Mr. Swing as the Johnny's father.
Yep.
I somehow had the impression that was a one-time deal. It didn't commit us to the town to anything in the future. Do you know anything about
I
that?
don't, I was just going on what I was told, and I don't know if that was Nelson Fontaine that John could probably shed light on how that came to effect and if it's on paper, but I've never seen nothing.
It wasn't a select board minutes back when. Cause I remember at the time, I was either on the board or had just gotten off the board. It was in the minutes.
Okay,
And I thought, gee, that's really kind of the select board to do that. Well,
yeah,
it was helping somebody out that needed it. The town, I think, spent the labor, but the material was provided by Mr. Swing, if I recall correctly.
okay, so you're thinking it was just more or less for one season?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
I seem to recall that specifically being
Sure.
stated somewhere. I mean, I'd be happy to look it up if I can find it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
If that's
know,
of any consequence to what if we decide today, I don't know.
yeah, being that it is a town road, I don't know where we stand, as far as making it passable, but I think the orange handbook's the only thing that would let us, know the requirements of how much to put into that. It does go from one town to another, and, not that it's used by a lot of public, but the public does. It's actually surprising, I do see a lot of vehicles come through there while I'm maintaining Putney Mountain. Dirt bikes, four-wheelers, but Jeepers, people with Jeeps. So anyway, John's asked me a couple times what the town's gonna do, and I believe he's talked with Archie, and I just wasn't sure where to take it. We should
Understand.
there is the one, it's not a resident, it's a camp.
Yeah.
So,
Alright, well, I think then,
No, nothing.
if
Stretching it.
it's a responsibility that we have to get it back to that, and there's no materials involved. If we do need materials, maybe we need to approach Johnny to hold to that particular
sure,
part of it, but I'm guessing that try not to exceed
yeah,
$1,000,
one day with
One
just
day
the
material,
machine,
just
no
working on it.
materials, and get it to a point where it could be, if he
Okay.
wants to do more, he probably will.
to do more.
He could come to a meeting and talk with us.
Okay. Alright, so you'll talk to him about that?
Sure, I
Alright.
will, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So also it's been one day, had gravel delivered to me with one truck, continuously for the whole entire day. Covering, road repair, the base gravel that was used for flood repair is now covered with a finished gravel that will be shaped with the grader, kind of like it once was before the flood. So that was a big improvement, and I'm planning to go out some of our other roads and just touch them up with the grader as within the next couple weeks. Again, I was gonna ask, where we were at with the budget for FEMA, but I guess we're working on that, and
Yeah, we gotta
I think
start.
I'd be glad to chat with whoever with my pictures and my building.
Yes, yes,
Certified.
that's right.
And then I was gonna talk about the blacktop repairs, but we're gonna put together the RFP for that, I got the information. I also, in my travels, a separate blacktop repair, and this is something we can talk about through the winter, I guess, but the intersection of Putney Mountain, going on to the bridge, got roughed up during the flood, and I don't know if that could be added
money.
in as part of the
Oh, yeah.
pavement.
Well, yeah, it's damaged from the flood
Yeah,
that came down from Merrill Drive.
right. So, it's kinda, I know that I could put some patch on it, but if you're only doing like an inch, the patch doesn't stay there.
Right.
So it should be,
Pavement.
actually, they call it zip down, they grind it out a little deeper. And then it stays in, if you go 2 to 3 inches, it stays in place way better. So that's something that we should look at.
Could that be part of the paving RFP for the Putney Mountain
I
Road?
believe it should be added right in.
Yeah.
there.
Right, we're gonna talk about how to do the contractor versus the paving, but
Sure.
that's a good point.
And yeah, that sounds good. And probably in the spring, I'm not sure if we wanna do another shim or just some repairs, but out on the bend, the corner of Grassy Brook Road by the West River. I know that it's kind of rough just before the corner.
Yeah.
It's breaking down into 2 or 3 layers, a long stretch, and I know the plow shoes on the plow hit that same spot. By spring, we're gonna have kind of a rough transition through there with the weather.
Is this coming around from McCutcheon?
Yes, because he lives there with
Cynthia's daughter,
Yes.
his wife.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I can't.
And the water comes out of the next house up, which is McAllister's
Yes.
duplex.
Right,
And there's a section there that, I don't know if it were shimmed, it was shimmed a number of years ago.
Yep,
Just to buy some time, and now we're kind of through the shim and,
so what do you suggest?
well, I think we should just talk it over to see what to do.
is that all part of that road that's starting to deteriorate
Yeah,
rapidly
there's
going
that-
into the river?
That whole section along the river, it's I don't know, it's 1,300 feet, I think we had it shimmed years ago, and it's that same area. Some of it's weathering better than others, so
No, but it's a problem area.
not knowing how much it would cost now with paving, that's something I'd like to. Just-
Before winter? No.
No, not
for next year.
before
Oh,
winter.
okay,
No.
all right.
Once spring gets here.
But
so
once
we
the
know
frost gets in there,
which route to go, whether to shim it or grind it up and redo that section, or
Okay.
there's a lot of issues there to look at, but I know it's getting rough. I have patched some of it, and the patches just don't stay. Something that maybe could get,
Okay.
you know, those certain areas, if they were ground out, like somebody like O'Brien Brothers, like the patch they did at Howard's before we paved.
Mhm.
Maybe we could talk to them about just fixing the worst of it.
Mhm.
And,
is any of that ALPA money available for any paving or anything? We
I'm
have no
not
idea.
sure yet, they.
Because that part of the road is deteriorating because they've
There might
used
be something with
wood underneath
mitigation,
to
yeah.
fill it in, and it's slowly but surely rotting more and more. And eventually that will probably go into the river.
So that, when we sit down to make a list.
That's a
that would be
major-
something- it's a
Major project there.
yeah. I put in this split rail fence post, put up the gutter out here. I've got more culverts in stock at the town garage to put in. I've also, some will be replacements, and I have a couple places I would like to just add new culverts to make for better drainage. So those will be on the list for next summer.
With your new machine?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you know, however it works out.
Yeah,
But yes, that would be nice.
yeah.
You do have a wheelbarrow on the pick.
Yeah, okay.
I got 2 picks, 2 wheelbarrows.
I've also got the handicap signs to install
Nice.
with some line paint. And there'll be some trees that I'm gonna be removing. They're trees that fit my category of tree removal, away from tower lines, light duty.
Did you ever get the fence post,
For,
the school?
yeah, that's all done.
He did that today.
I did that this
Oh.
morning.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great. Before snow.
Yeah, so that covers everything past couple of weeks and. The only, I guess I do have one question, and I was gonna wait to ask Guy or maybe the board, but. So, had a couple of opportunities to get mulch hay from vendors in town and just wondered how to go about paying them for the hay. I've gotten the hay used to
Just submit an invoice.
have them give me a bill and then I'll give
Yeah.
them a bill to the town.
Yeah, they have to have a paper trail for the,
Okay. Good product.
All right, and he's also a vendor on our list already,
Okay.
so we already have, it's blue, right?
No,
Oh.
You had told me about the farm
Yeah.
and Howard, and then Tommy Brooks stopped by to see me and so he had a batch of hay that
Okay.
got rained on and couldn't use it, and he didn't want it in his barn because
It's
it's
hot.
heating up, and so he told me to come and get it as needed, so it worked out good.
Perfect.
And he told me what he wants for it, I just didn't know how to.
Yeah, just have him write a bill.
Yeah.
Handwritten bill.
invoice the town and,
Okay.
Just name, address, phone number, contact and.
All
Is
right.
it less than $600?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
These better be, but it's less than $6 a bale.
You may need an unemployed worksheet, guys. I'm just kidding.
That makes sense.
That it?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, very good. All right, so we're gonna move on here. I'm gonna leave with the treasurer, the appropriations request for $300 from the Groundworks Collaborative, an appropriations request for $100 for Vermont Association for the Blind and Visibly Impaired. I also got in the email, let's fill this out tomorrow and send it in. It's a municipal mitigation grant and aid for fiscal year 2022. So it's all here. I just will fill it out and then we'll fax it tomorrow. We can fax a couple different things
Okay.
tomorrow, but
So
that's
that-
all.
That's an intent thing as well.
Say it again.
That's an intent,
This is, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
for next summer.
Yeah, for next year's, legal work, so. And we have to yes, it's, grantee, so the town of Brookline, so it's pretty much a given. That. All right. And regular mail, let me do that real quickly, and I'll pass this around. We have some mail from Southern Vermont Therapeutic Riding Center. I guess this has to do with the appropriations. So.
Same thing.
No, I don't see the number on here. You
Is
can
it,
look for that, if you don't mind. Something from the Department of Health.
$500.
yep,
Okay. It's a professional data analysis to conduct a survey about perspectives on substance use issues. And Efficiency Vermont. Yeah, this is interesting. I have to call them because it says, if you're using fluorescent lightings, you can get discounts on high quality lighting for your business. However, you know, the lighting that we're talking about getting, I don't know.
well, I'm gonna ask Mr. Larson if we can submit a invoice and get money back because Efficiency Vermont is willing to give us some money.
So, we don't have to buy it from them to have him install.
I don't think so. I didn't read that letter carefully, but it's my understanding that we would get credit.
If we got the lighting
Yes.
done, and that's
Yes.
what we're doing, okay. And then Grace Cottage Hospital, an appropriation request for $300, so that goes with the others. So at this time now, I am going to go over our pay orders.
You wanna go back to the.
Oh, yes.
the item on, in regard
Okay.
to Townsend, I don't know if you did or don't.
I,
How the
yes,
people feel. Everyone.
we talked about, we tabled briefly the response to the flag in Townsend, and I agree that it's to address that specifically is probably not on our legal best interest. However, I sat here and doodled a couple of statements, and I was like, Brookline is proud to be a welcoming community, and and is supportive of our like-minded neighboring towns. Any other suggestions?
I agree with what you've done. It sounds good, and there's one other characteristic that Ron Lake, the select board chair in Townsend, indicated. He mentioned it in passing, and I don't know what it implies or means. But he said the kind of letter that he could write as the town in which the event occurred was significantly different than the letters that he was able to, different than the statement the surrounding towns could make.
Correct.
So that to me almost says, in a way, or implies that it needs to be different, that we.
Yeah, we're
can't
not
take
addressing
that.
a particular
Right.
instance, but we're just addressing the fact that we're welcoming and we believe our neighboring towns are like-minded in that, and
Yeah, as a neighbor, we share the same feelings, but, just to acknowledge, I guess.
I will write this up and I'll send it out to you guys, and if you want me to table it, I will wait till the next meeting, if not, I'll
I just send it.
send it.
I'll make a motion, we take a vote on the issue, and
All right.
I know, David hasn't shown up, but since we're getting on time.
Right.
I make a motion, we take a vote on the issue.
All right, so
There's a second?
I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of sending a general statement of support, of like-minded welcoming communities as Brookline and our neighbors, along those lines, signify by saying yes.
Aye.
Okay, for, very good, everyone is agreement to send a simple note to towns and select board in that reflects. All right, so here's my notes here.
Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Okay, anything else? Payroll warrants. I'd like to make a motion to approve payroll warrant number 2022-15 dated October 13th, 2021 in the amount of $7,818.17. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2022-15 dated this 13th of October for the amount of $7,818.17 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes, and I'll send this around for your signature. This is a big one too. All right, I'd like to have a chance to. This is. I just broke it down. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve accounts payable warrant 2022-16 B as in boy. Is there an A? 2022-16 B as in boy, dated October 20th, 2021, in the amount of $40,613.99. May I have a second?
Question? I don't know, when is it appropriate?
You can do that during discussion.
Okay, might as well second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Stan?
Yeah, the amount under the second line of this, it's $9,562. What is that relative to?
The dump truck rental that removed the gravel, correct? Mark, E&N logging and land clearing.
Excuse me.
I wasn't listening, but.
Okay. Let me pull it out here.
Yeah, it's a
For $9,000.
$9,543 for E&W rental of a dump truck.
Yeah, dump truck rental. Like,
For what project in particular?
if
That
it
was
was
the
all
FEMA?
over town, I
Oh.
separated on McGill, but that's the total for amongst the.
Was this some of the FEMA problems too?
Yes.
Yes, so he has it itemized on here,
Yeah,
okay.
it's for the grant on Barker Road, it's for Putney Mountain repairs.
But that's your dump truck.
My dad.
Yeah, okay, all right, no,
Yeah.
so we didn't have to bring something.
No, that's the way Samora had it set up for the town.
Yep, yeah, we're using
That's the
FEMA.
way, and then that's repairs on, Hill Road, where we were doing drainage. And also in Whitney Hill.
Thank
So
you,
it was it covers all of it.
thank you.
Okay.
I didn't recognize the name already, so.
Yeah, he and my dad and me,
Ah,
we have an account together that.
Thank you for explaining, appreciate it.
It's automatic.
Any other questions for discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2022-16B dated the 20th of October for $40,613.99 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, okay. Let me see something here real quick, maybe this is why there's an A and a B. All right, let me sign this and I'll pass it down. It must be important because my handwriting's getting very sloppy.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna move along, set agenda for the next meeting, November 2nd, we'll talk about the paving and any other things that would come out. For that.
I
Yes.
just had, at the last meeting, we brought up, well, we tabled it, but there was the work to be talked about on the drainage project on Hill Road by Mr. Romans.
Mhm.
And I did cover it with hay, not knowing if we were gonna get to it before winter, but I did, just wanted to make sure we're on the same page that the repairs were.
Postponed.
Spring.
Postponed until springtime,
Yeah.
we got a handle on our money,
Yeah.
and, yes, I can
Okay,
see it.
yeah, that answers my question.
The only thing we didn't talk about that I wanted to was a concern that you had about covering up the gravel that's available in the yard that's not in a shed that we might use
Yeah,
at some point.
that's something.
I don't know if we can tarp it for now.
The
Until,
tarp might help, yeah, to keep moisture out, keep it from freezing, so.
I think that would be something I would
That would
certainly,
be the most inexpensive.
Wait, to
way
at least to start, because
Yeah,
is that something that you could shop for and get a
Yeah.
heavy duty tarp and use
yeah,
that?
get a small
at
quantity
least.
of that, the right size stone and cover it, sure.
Okay,
Yeah, because either way, that fits our budget for,
right, because I'm sure a tarp would be less than
Repairs.
$50.
yeah. Yeah, so if we get a spring thaw or February thaw, we might be able to jump on those repairs with some.
The gravel's not underneath
It's
us,
not froze
frozen
together,
together.
Great, yeah. Better makes your job easier.
yeah, oh, for sure.
Okay, so at this time, I entertain a motion, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
Did you need to set the agenda first
Well, the only setting was changing RFP and to be determined, I'm not exactly
and
sure.
change the date to November 3rd?
Oh, the next meeting is November 3rd, not
Not
November
November
2nd, thank you.
Ooh.
I would have showed up, nobody been here. All right,
We would have talked about
all right, so I made the motion, may I have a second?
So moved.
Seconded by Bruce, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning this evening's meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 9:07 PM, thank you.
Would you stop recording?
Stop recording.
And meeting for all. Goodbye.